The lone engineer Jake Morrison wiped grease from his hands as he watched the desert horizon shimmer in the heat. The abandoned mining station on Kepler 442b had been his home for 3 months now, ever since the Vorthan Empire had branded him a war criminal. The truth was simpler than the bounty on his head suggested. He had done nothing more than refuse to build weapons for tyrants. The human engineer had spent his exile turning scrap metal into art, building impossible contraptions that served no purpose except to amuse him. His latest creation was a mechanical bird that sang opera while dispensing coffee. It perched on his shoulder now, humming a tune from old Earth. 5 heat signatures appeared on his scanner. Jake sighed and set down his wrench. The Vorthan death squads had found him at last. He had expected this day would come, but he had hoped for more time to finish his projects. The first assassin materialized from the shadows like liquid darkness. Nyx was her name, a shadow dancer from the Umbral Collective. Her twin blades gleamed with poison that could kill with a single scratch. She moved with the fluid grace of water, each step perfectly silent. Behind her emerged Kronos, a cybernetic giant whose left arm had been replaced with a plasma cannon. Half his face was metal, the other half bore scars from 1,000 battles. His red mechanical eye focused on Jake with cold precision. The third killer needed no introduction. Venom stood 7 feet tall, his reptilian skin shifting colors like a chameleon. Toxic gas leaked from pores along his neck, and his claws dripped with acid that could melt through steel. He was bred for one purpose: death. From above, Raptor descended on mechanical wings, her body more machine than flesh. She had been a pilot once, before the Vorthan Empire transformed her into a living weapon. Now she served as their aerial executioner, raining death from the sky. The 5th assassin remained hidden, but Jake knew he was there. Phantom was a master of illusion, able to bend light and shadow to become invisible. He was the most dangerous of all, striking when least expected. Jake raised his hands in mock surrender, a grin spreading across his face. The mechanical bird on his shoulder chirped cheerfully, oblivious to the danger. "Well, this is awkward," Jake said, his voice carrying across the desert wind. "I was just about to make lunch. Anyone hungry?" The assassins paused, confused by his casual response. They had been trained to expect fear, panic, or desperate fighting. They had not been prepared for an invitation to dinner. Nyx tilted her head, studying this strange human who faced death with a smile. The unexpected. Alliance Nyx found herself lowering her blades slightly as she watched Jake Morrison tinker with something behind a pile of metal debris. The human seemed completely unconcerned. That 5 of the galaxy's most lethal killers surrounded him. "You're not afraid," she observed, her voice carrying the melodic accent of the Umbral Collective. "Should I be?" Jake asked, pulling out what looked like a modified mining laser. "I mean, statistically speaking, I'm already dead. Might as well make the most of it." Kronos raised his plasma cannon, but hesitated when Jake pointed his device at a nearby rock formation. The laser fired, but instead of cutting through stone, it projected a holographic display showing the assassin's biometrics, combat records, and personal histories. "Interesting reading," Jake commented, scrolling through the data. "Nyx, originally from the artist colonies, before the Vorthan Empire enslaved your people. Kronos, former Republic soldier until they left you to die on Proxima 7. Venom, genetically modified against your will as a child." The 3 assassins exchanged glances. How did this human know their secrets? Raptor descended lower, her mechanical wings folding against her back. "You've done your research," she said, her voice carrying a metallic undertone. "I'm an engineer," Jake shrugged. "I like to understand how things work, including people. Question is, why are you working for the same empire that destroyed your lives?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Kronos was the first to Speak. We have contracts, he growled. Failure means death. Death's pretty final, Jake agreed. But what if I told you there was another option? Before anyone could respond, Jake pressed another button on his device. The rock formation split open, revealing a hidden workshop filled with impossible machines. Gravity-defying sculptures rotated slowly in the air, while robots played chess. With holograms. I've been busy, Jake explained. 3 months of nothing but time and imagination. Want to see what happens when you give a human engineer unlimited resources and a grudge against tyranny? Nix stepped forward, drawn by curiosity despite her training. One of the sculptures was a perfect replica of her homeworld before the Vorthen. Invasion, complete with the crystal forests she remembered from childhood. How did you know? She whispered. I've been tracking Vorthen war crimes for years, Jake said softly. Your people's art was legendary. I thought someone should remember. Kronos found himself staring at a memorial wall covered with names and faces. His old Republic unit was there. Every soldier who had died in the ambush that cost him his arm and eye. Brothers, he murmured. They deserved better, Jake said simply. You all did. Venom had discovered something that made him recoil. In surprise. In a sealed chamber, Jake had created a garden of plants from Venom's original world, species that had been extinct for decades. The seeds were in the Vorthen archives, Jake explained. I may have borrowed them. Raptor was examining a set of mechanical wings, far more advanced than her current ones. These are double quotes, she began. Functional, Jake finished. And they don't require neural implants. You could fly free again. The fifth assassin, Phantom, finally revealed himself, stepping out of the shadows with his camouflage deactivated. His face was younger than the others, barely out of his teens. Why? Phantom asked. Why help us? Jake's expression grew serious. Because the Vorthen Empire doesn't just destroy worlds. They destroy souls. They turn victims into weapons and call it justice. But here's the thing about humans. He gestured to his impossible workshop, his defiant smile, his refusal to surrender hope. We're really, really good at breaking things that shouldn't exist. The choice the 5 assassins stood in Jake's workshop, each confronting memories they had tried to bury. The human engineer watched them process the revelation that someone had remembered their pain, their losses, their humanity. Nix was the first to break the silence. The Vorthen Empire will not forgive failure. If we do not return with your head, they will hunt us to the ends of the galaxy. Then don't go back, Jake said simply. Stay here. Help me build something better. Kronos laughed bitterly. You think it's that simple? We have kill switches implanted in our brains. One signal from command, and we're dead. Jake grinned. About that, he pulled out a small device covered in blinking lights. I've been jamming their signals for the past 20 minutes. Your kill switches are currently receiving nothing but elevator music. Phantom's eyes widened. That's impossible. Vorthen. Technology is designed by beings who think in straight lines, Jake interrupted. I think in spirals, loop-de-loops, and the occasional pretzel shape. It confuses their systems. Raptor checked her internal chronometer. Command expects contact. In 6 hours. When we don't report, they'll send a fleet. Good, Jake said cheerfully. I was wondering when the real party would start. The assassin stared at him as if he had lost his mind. Venom was the first to speak. You want them to come? A human. Against the entire Vorthen war machine? Not just a human, Jake corrected. A human with friends. He led them to another section of the workshop, where a massive tactical display showed the solar system. Red dots marked incoming Vorthen ships, while blue dots represented something else entirely. I've been busy making other friends too, Jake explained. Turns out, The galaxy is full of people who don't like the Vorthan Empire. Rebels, refugees, pirates, even some Republic holdouts. They've been waiting for someone crazy enough to make the first move. Nix studied the display. You're planning a war. I'm planning a revolution, Jake corrected. There's a difference. Wars are about conquest. Revolutions are about hope. Kronos stepped forward, his mechanical eye analyzing the tactical situation. The numbers are against us. Even with allied forces, we're outnumbered 50-1. Numbers don't matter when you're fighting for the right reasons, Jake said. Besides, I have a secret weapon. What? Raptor asked. Jake's grin widened. I'm human. We specialize in impossible odds. The workshop fell silent as the 5 assassins considered their options. They could complete their mission and return to their lives of servitude, or they could risk everything for a chance at freedom. Phantom spoke first. If we do this, if we help you, what happens to us afterward? Whatever you want, Jake said. Build a new life. Find your families. Explore the galaxy. I'm not looking for slaves or soldiers. I'm looking for people who want to choose their own destiny. Nix touched the holographic crystal forest, her fingers passing through the light. My people's art is lost. The techniques, the traditions, everything. Then teach new people, Jake suggested. Start a new tradition. Make something beautiful that never existed before. She looked at him with something approaching wonder. You really believe it's possible? I believe in second chances, Jake said. And third chances. And fourth chances. I believe in the power of people to change, to grow, to become more than what they were forced to be. Kronos examined the memorial wall again. My brothers would have liked you. Then honor their memory, Jake said. Not by dying for tyrants, but by living for something better. The 5 assassins looked at each other, then at Jake. The choice was theirs to make. The battle begins. 3 of the assassins made their choice. Nix sheathed her poisoned blades and picked up one of Jake's improvised weapons, a device that fired nets of pure energy. Kronos deactivated his plasma cannon's targeting system and began examining Jake's defensive installations. Phantom dropped his camouflage permanently and started helping with the technical systems. Raptor and Venom stood apart, still uncertain. I understand, Jake said to them. Freedom is terrifying when you've been a prisoner for so long. But this offer stands no matter what you decide. Before they could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the workshop. The Vorthan fleet had arrived ahead of schedule. Well, that's inconvenient, Jake muttered, checking his displays. 30 ships, including 2 dreadnoughts. They're really not taking any chances. Nix tested her new weapon, watching energy patterns dance across her fingers. How do we fight that? We don't fight it, Jake said. We make it fight itself. He activated his master console, and the entire mining station began to transform. Hidden panels slid away to reveal massive gravitational manipulators, devices. That could bend space itself. The abandoned mining equipment was revealed to be camouflaged defense platforms. I've had 3 months to prepare, Jake explained. Every piece of junk in this place is actually a weapon in disguise. Kronos nodded approvingly. Deception. I like it. The first wave of Vorthan fighters screamed toward the station, their weapons charging. Jake waited until they were committed to their attack run, then activated the gravitational fields. The fighters found themselves caught in a maze of twisted space, their navigation systems spinning wildly as up became down and straight lines became spirals. They crashed into each other, their own weapons causing more damage than Jake's defenses. How? Phantom whispered. Humans are pattern breakers, Jake said. We don't fight the way anyone expects. Raptor was studying the display with professional interest. You're using their own tactics against them. Brilliant. Want to help? Jake asked. I could use a pilot." She hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "What do you need?" Jake handed her a set of modified fighter controls. "Think you can fly through that maze?" Raptor's mechanical wings spread wide. "I can fly through anything." Meanwhile, Venom had been watching the battle with growing intensity. His reptilian features twisted with an emotion Jake couldn't quite identify. "They're calling for reinforcements," Venom reported, his enhanced hearing picking up Vorthan communications. "More ships are coming. Let them come," Jake said. "I've got surprises for everyone." The second wave of the attack came from the dreadnoughts themselves. Massive energy. Beams lanced down from orbit, intending to crack the planet's surface. But Jake's gravitational manipulators bent the beams back toward their sources, creating a deadly light show that damaged the Vorthan ships. "Impossible," came a transmission from the Vorthan fleet commander. "How is one human doing this?" Jake activated his communication system. "Admiral Vex, I presume? I'm Jake Morrison, and I have a message for your Empire. Surrender now, and we will make your death quick," the Admiral snarled. "I have a better idea," Jake replied. "Why don't you surrender?" "I promise to let you live long enough to see your Empire fall." The Admiral's response was to order a full bombardment. Every ship in the fleet opened fire simultaneously, trying to overwhelm Jake's defenses through sheer volume. But Jake was ready. His workshop erupted outward, revealing the true scope of his preparations. The entire mining station was a single massive weapon, a gravitational cannon that could punch holes in reality itself. "You wanted to see what happens when you corner a human?" Jake said into the com. "Here's your answer." The gravitational cannon fired, and space itself screamed. The wave of distorted reality ripped through the Vorthan fleet, turning their formation into chaos. Ships tumbled end over end, their crews too disoriented to fight effectively. But Jake wasn't finished. He activated his second surprise, a network of hidden rebel ships that had been waiting in the system's outer planets. They emerged from hiding, like a swarm of angry hornets, hitting the confused Vorthan fleet from multiple angles. Venom finally made his choice. He activated his own communication implant and began broadcasting Vorthan tactical codes to the rebel fleet. "Why?" Nix asked. "Because," Venom said, his voice carrying a new strength, "I remember what it felt like to be free." The new beginning the battle raged for 6 hours, but it was never really in doubt. Jake's combination of impossible technology, tactical brilliance, and sheer human audacity had turned the tables on the Vorthan Empire. The rebel fleet, coordinated by Venom's insider knowledge and led by Raptor's piloting skills, systematically dismantled the Imperial formation. When the dust settled, half the Vorthan fleet was destroyed, and the other half was fleeing toward the edge of the system. Admiral Vex's flagship limped away, broadcasting warnings about the human anomaly that had humiliated the Empire's finest forces. Jake stood in the ruins of his workshop, surrounded by his new allies. The mechanical bird on his shoulder had somehow survived the battle and was now singing a victory song. "So," Nick said, looking around at the devastation, "what now?" "Now we build," Jake said simply. "The Vorthan Empire knows we're here. They'll be back with more ships, more weapons, more soldiers. But we'll be ready." Cronus was already examining the wreckage, his engineer's mind cataloging useful components. "We'll need more than weapons. We'll need hope. Then we'll build that." "Too," Jake said. "Every world the Empire has conquered, every species they've enslaved, every person they've broken. We'll give them something to fight for." Phantom was monitoring communications from across the galaxy. "The battle is already being talked about. The story is spreading." "Good," Jake said. "Let them know that someone fought back. Let them know that the Empire can bleed." Raptor was testing her new wings, the ones Jake had built without neural implants. For the first time in years, she could fly without the Empire's voice in her head. I can contact other pilots, others who were converted against their will. Do it, Jake said. Everyone deserves a chance to choose their own path. Venom was working on something in the corner, his acid-secreting claws carefully etching patterns into metal. I'm making a memorial, he explained. For all the victims, all the worlds, all the lives lost. That's beautiful, Nick said. She had been working on something too, a holographic art installation that showed not the worlds that had been lost, but the worlds that could be saved. Jake watched his former enemies turned allies, each finding their own way to heal from Neo. Trauma the Empire had inflicted. They were no longer just assassins or weapons. They were people with dreams and hopes and the power to choose their own destiny. The Empire made a mistake, Jake said, addressing all of them. They thought they could break the spirit of the galaxy. They thought they could turn victims into weapons and call it order. But they forgot something important. What? Phantom asked. They forgot that broken things can be fixed, Jake said. That weapons can choose to become tools of creation instead of destruction. That people can change, can grow, can become more than what they were forced to be. A new signal appeared on the communications array. More rebel ships were arriving, drawn by the stories of the battle. Pirates, refugees, former soldiers, anyone who had suffered under Vorthan rule. They came not for conquest, but for hope. This is just the beginning, Jake said, watching the growing fleet. The Empire has ruled through fear for too long. It's time to show the galaxy something different. What's that? Kronos asked. Jake smiled, the same defiant grin he had worn when facing 5 assassins sent to kill him. What happens when you give people a reason to hope instead of a reason to fear? Nyx looked around at her new family, these unlikely allies who had chosen freedom over servitude. So we're really doing this? Taking on the entire Vorthan Empire? We're not taking on the Empire, Jake corrected. We're offering the galaxy something better. Freedom, choice, the right to determine your own fate. And if we fail? Raptor asked. Jake's grin widened. Then we'll fail spectacularly, and the galaxy will remember that someone tried. But as he looked at the growing fleet, at the hope in his allies' eyes, at the messages of support flooding in from across the galaxy, Jake didn't think they would fail. The Vorthan Empire was powerful, but it was built on fear and oppression. Jake Morrison was just one human engineer with a talent for impossible solutions and a refusal to accept defeat. But he was no longer alone. He had allies who had chosen. Hope over despair, creation over destruction, freedom over servitude. The revolution had begun, and it would not be stopped.